The U.S. House just pushed back against U.S. President Donald Trump over Canadian tariffs. Lawmakers, including 6 Republicans, voted 2019 to 2011 against his 35% tariffs on Canadian goods, challenging the president's national emergency declaration over fentanyl. For more on what this means for Canada, I'm joined by CTV News political analyst Eric Ham. First of all, big question is, what does this mean for Canada-U.S. trade relations?
Well, I think it means that relations will continue to be very tense between Canada and the United States. And President Donald Trump is actually digging in on the latest effort by Congress to actually remove these tariffs, actually threatening lawmakers, Republican lawmakers who support any effort to try to remove tariffs, saying that he will go after them in the upcoming elections, including their own primaries.
Yeah, and he took to Truth Social, as he does, to let Republicans know this is where he wanted to see his support. And part of that, he says, Canada has taken advantage of the United States on trade for many years. They are among the worst in the world to deal with, especially as it relates to our northern border. Tariffs make a win for us easy. Republicans must keep it that way. President Donald J. Trump. So despite hearing from the president, 6 Republicans voted with the Democrats. What does that mean for them going forward?
You know, it's interesting because there was a procedural vote that led up to the passage of this legislation, and there were 3 Republicans that actually supported that, and you got 6 who actually supported the legislation. So what that tells us is you have actually more Republicans who actually do not agree with the president's tariff policy. And of course, we're going to see even more Republicans side with Democrats to try to repeal these tariffs in the Senate. Now, this legislation is expected to pass the Senate as well, but when it gets to the president's desk, we're told that the president will very likely veto this legislation. Unfortunately, it's not veto-proof. What it does, however, it does open the floodgates to now allow legislation like this to continuously actually come to the floor for a vote. And we now will see, for the first time, lawmakers actually beginning to move away from the president and rebuke him specifically on these tariffs relating to Canada.
And what was interesting about some of that rebuke is that it used specific examples. And one of the Republicans talking about how he's hearing from farmers that fertilizer is now too expensive. So we're starting to hear those arguments and the pushback of this is what it looks like on American soil with those tariffs in place. So it doesn't change anything overall, but it does allow for some movement and some conversation about, tariffs are the way for America, but unless you ask the farmers, that's a different message.
That's right. And this could be a potential 1-2 punch because we see Republicans are now moving away from the president on his signature economic policy. But remember, we still have the ruling from the Supreme Court on Donald Trump's use of tariffs that we could get any minute now. That ruling was expected last month. So we're still waiting on that, which actually could basically eliminate Donald Trump's use of tariff policy altogether.
Eric Ham, I want to thank you for joining us from Washington. It was an interesting development overnight, and while it doesn't remove tariffs, it does make a little bit of room in perhaps a more positive direction. Good to talk to you this morning.
You bet. Thank you.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.